There was nothing like the feeling of a day where Nickelodeon decided to rerun a SpongeBob special. However, as special as the good specials could make us feel, when a bad special aired, like Atlantis SquarePantis with its downright boring plot, Ugh with its repetitive grunting gags, or Truth or Square with all of its meandering, pointless references, the special feeling we got from a good SpongeBob special backfired and left us feeling particularly unspecial. But there was one special that was just kinda there and forgettable, which is ironic because it's the special where SpongeBob gets amnesia. Let's take a look at Whatever Happened to SpongeBob, examine its advertising and presentation, examine its writing flaws, and ask ourselves if this episode really needed to be a special at all. Chapter 1. The Advertising. SpongeBob specials, as I remember them at least, dominated the ad space on Nickelodeon whenever the time was right for them to air a new one, which was pretty much every few months during this era. By the time this special aired, the show was well into the peak of its popularity, but also just into the noticeable decline in its writing quality. And around season 5 specifically, this drop in writing quality is most noticed in its specials, due to the fact that not only are these episodes of longer length, which gives them more time to have their flaws be noticed, but also because since these specials are so overhyped in advertising, the expectations often don't meet the reality. Season 5 was really the season of specials for SpongeBob, considering there were 4 of them. Friend or Foe, Atlantis SquarePantis, Pest of the West, and Whatever Happened to SpongeBob all aired within the 2-year window from 2007 to 2008, where season 5 was premiering. Of the 4, I really am only a fan of Friend or Foe, but even that episode has some glaring writing and comedy flaws, and is mostly propped up by the fact that it gives us a meaningful backstory to Krabs and Plank. Atlantis SquarePantis was the most hyped special of the bunch, considering it's the longest one, and due to its length was filled with lots of padding and little actual story. Pest of the West felt much smaller compared to the first 2 season 5 specials, but still felt pretty special due to the time period shift. But WhoBob WhatPants? It's really the ugly stepsister of the 4 here. What my main question is why is this a special at all? Clearly the season wasn't hurting for special episodes, so why prop up this mediocre by-the-books amnesia storyline to the status of special? As far as the advertising goes, I tried to find some sort of archive of what kind of ads played for the special, and I didn't really find much. The special itself definitely did not receive the kind of advertising attention compared to something like Atlantis SquarePantis, Friend or Foe, or Truth or Square. The advertising that I did find does lean into a lot of showing that SpongeBob lost his memory, but doesn't get into any of the other major plot details of the episode, like SpongeBob leaving Bikini Bottom for a new location in New Kelp City. It really just advertised the special as SpongeBob lost his memory. I can kind of see why this is. The special itself just doesn't have a whole lot going for it. That makes it the same sort of ratings trap as other comparable specials. Have you seen this snail? Gary Gets Lost, Dunces and Dragons, and Pest of the West, period pieces. Friend or Foe? Backstory. Just about every other special has a thing that makes it special. But Amnesia just isn't all that special. It's actually one of the least special kinds of plots a show can do. Oh yeah, and side note, the episode isn't even sure what it wants to be called. All the ads call it WhoBob WhatPants, but the official name of the episode is Whatever Happened to SpongeBob, which is kind of a mouthful. So I kind of get using the other name, but it's still weird it didn't stick to one name. There's also one other bit of presentation-related trivia that I find interesting about this special, which is that it's one of 3 specials that uses this little Patchy Presents opening bumper, where before the episode starts, it shows an image of Patchy that's manipulated to make it cartoonishly look like he's talking, and then puts up this little graphic of a spinning SpongeBob. This is a way for the episode to acknowledge that it's a special without having a dedicated Patchy segment that was the norm with specials of the time. This little opening was used in Have You Seen This Snail, Pest of the West, and of course, WhoBob WhatPants. It is kind of odd this wasn't used for Dunces and Dragons, considering it's in between these specials but doesn't have a dedicated Patchy segment. If I had to guess, they thought it didn't need it because it was a period piece, but then they changed their mind when they got to Fest of the West. Anyway, I think this Patchy Presents is another indication of this being a non-special special. It's just a way of elevating the episode to special status without doing the actual work in making it special. I know it also did this in other specials that do feel specially, but it being present before WhoBob WhatPants just kinda doesn't help. But even if the episode's concept alone isn't all that special, is the episode itself any good? Chapter 2, Idiot Boy. The opening of Whatever Happened to SpongeBob is defined by 2 words, Idiot Boy. For some reason, the characters all happen to call SpongeBob the name Idiot Boy as he makes different mistakes around them. We'll get into the mean-spiritedness of the opening in a second, but I'd like to address how inconsistent it is that the writers decided to go with Idiot Boy as the insult that's meant to be SpongeBob's entire motivation for leaving Bikini Bottom, when in Pest of the West, which aired like 6 months before this special, one of the main recurring phrases in that special was idiot friend, which was portrayed as a positive, even to the point where they sang a whole song about it. Like, were these specials written simultaneously, with no one on each episode's team being aware that the other was using the word idiot in a completely opposite way? One writer is shared between the 2 episodes, Stephen Banks, and I think that a big show like this would have some kind of oversight from the showrunner. Like, on one hand, I get it. These episodes are in production for a long time, so they probably weren't thinking about idiot friend when they wrote Idiot Boy. But as a viewer, these episodes came one after the other, and Pest of the West was fresh in the audience's mind when this special came out. So the whole thing just comes off weird. I don't know. Was I the only one who made this connection, or did anyone else feel this way when they watched the special for the first time? Anyway, even beyond its association with Idiot Friend, Idiot Boy is just a weird insult. I kinda get what they were going for, trying to come up with a specific, unique name for everyone to call SpongeBob that would stick in the audience's mind. But I think they could have come up with something better. Or better yet, just not have them keep calling him a name at all. Them getting mad at him might have been enough. Like, it's weird they all call him the same thing, you know? Like, did Patrick, Squidward, Sandy, and Mr. Krabs all have a meeting where they came up with the term? Or did they all independently come up with it and happen to use it on the same day? And beyond all that, it just doesn't really ring home as an insult. Idiot boy? Like, what? Just call him an idiot. I guess boy makes it sound more demeaning, but it's just a poor use of the English language. You know what's a great insulting name that's used in a similar piece of media? Cotton-headed ninny-muggins from Elf. Now that's a demeaning name that sticks out.
I'm a cotton-headed ninny-muggins.
But even beyond the actual insult they used, I also find the entire opening sequence where SpongeBob's friends get mad at him to be a bit contrived. I get what they were going for. Sometimes you just have days where it seems like everyone is out to get you, but some of the situations seem really manufactured, and it makes it come off as mean-spirited. Patrick also acts very out of character here. I don't think I can think of another time where Patrick gets so genuinely mad at SpongeBob. Like, the scene is just unpleasant, and for Patrick to then straight up call SpongeBob idiot boy before closing the rock just comes off so not true to the character. Usually when Patrick gets mad at SpongeBob, it's due to either a comedic misunderstanding or a deeper character moment. The cake scene is just a cake getting all over Patrick and doesn't really lead into why the character is in conflict with SpongeBob. Then Squidward gets mad at SpongeBob and calls him an idiot boy, just because SpongeBob was knocking on his door too loud. And for some reason, in this instance, SpongeBob really takes this to heart. What? Why? This isn't even the meanest Squidward is to SpongeBob. He treats him like this all the time. Why is SpongeBob all of a sudden self-aware of how Squidward hates him? Oh, right, because the plot needs to manufacture drama. The Sandy conflict is the first one that makes decent sense. Sandy makes a robot and SpongeBob trips over a log and the water from his water helmet breaks the robot. And Sandy getting mad at SpongeBob is pretty in line with her character, as she often calls out SpongeBob in this way in other episodes. Still don't like idiot boy though. Then the Mr. Krabs one, while a little less creative, is also in character, as SpongeBob accidentally causes some of Krabs' dollars to end up in the deep fryer, leading to one last idiot boy. If I were to fix this opening section, I would first cut out Squidward completely, because since Squidward is always mean to SpongeBob anyway, and SpongeBob isn't self-aware of it, it's probably better to just ignore Squidward for the beginning of the episode, and focus more on SpongeBob having conflict with the characters who usually like him, being Gary, Patrick, Sandy, and Krabs. When it comes to Gary, him getting mad at SpongeBob for breaking his shell is fine enough, though we could have done without making the scene look so gross. It works as just an inciting domino of the bad things that SpongeBob would later experience. As for Patrick, Sandy, and Krabs, I think what they were missing in their respective interactions with Sponge is a little more focus on them as characters and why they snapped at SpongeBob. These three are meant to undergo a character arc throughout the episode, where they learn their lesson about appreciating their friend as they end up losing him because they were cruel to him. So the narrative needed to do a little more in establishing that key character flaw. What would have made all three of these interactions work better is if before SpongeBob enters the scene, each respective character is shown to be stressed out about something, showing the audience that they aren't actually mad at SpongeBob, they just snap due to the stress of something else. This helps teach people that sometimes when people get mad at you, it isn't your fault. They might just be having a bad day themselves. As it stands, the characters seem to be doing just fine before SpongeBob shows up, with Sandy and Mr. Krabs in particular actually looking quite content and happy. This reads to the audience that SpongeBob actually was the one who ruined their day, and muddies the message that the narrative is going for. So because SpongeBob had a bad day, he decides to leave Bikini Bottom forever. I'd say this is kind of the establishment of what should be SpongeBob's character flaw in the episode, being that because he had one bad day, he thinks that everyone hates him, and that causes him to abandon people, which is a common behavior and one worth representing in a narrative, but the episode then goes on to completely miss the opportunity to do that because of the amnesia plot. Chapter 3: Cheesehead Brown Pants. So, when SpongeBob leaves town, he encounters a bunch of strange fish who are like babbling and dressed in medieval times clothes. I don't know why these characters are acting so weird and dressed like this, considering New Kelp City, which is where SpongeBob spends most of the episode, is a normal present-day city. Like, why are there people in medieval outfits? I just don't get it. The first people SpongeBob talks to after he hits his head and wakes up are wearing these medieval outfits. And since they get scared of SpongeBob blowing a bubble, something that everyone in New Kelp City is afraid of, as seen later, it implies that they are from New Kelp City, but they're dressed like and talk like medieval peasants. So what the heck is going on? Was New Kelp City supposed to be like a medieval kingdom or something, and then they scrapped the idea because it was too similar to Dunces and Dragons, but they already animated these scenes? It's just really weird. Let me know in the comments why you think this is. So from here on out, the episode revolves around SpongeBob having amnesia and being in a new city. The problem with an amnesia storyline in pretty much any story is that it removes a lot of agency from a character's own decision making. Like, SpongeBob left Bikini Bottom for a specific reason. He feels like all of the people in his life don't appreciate him. But as soon as he hits his head, that motivation no longer exists, other than just being the reason he's gone. What was a story about someone learning to appreciate the life he once had has now been reduced to guy with no memory tries to get a job and encounters a couple scary guys. It's also kind of hard to tell if SpongeBob even is, SpongeBob anymore in these scenes. In order to line up with the whole amnesia plotline, a lot of his line deliveries are quite monotone, and he doesn't really do all that much that aligns with his character other than blow bubbles. And that's kind of what the episode becomes focused on now, this whole mystery over why everyone in the city is suddenly afraid of bubbles. The mystery is kind of compelling, as there's a couple of scenes where SpongeBob blows bubbles around various characters within New Kelp City, and they all freak out and run away with no explanation, but the explanation itself isn't really all that satisfying, being that there's just some gang who hates bubbles for some reason. The Bubble Poppin' Boys I felt like were the most hyped up part of this special, though I could possibly be mistaken because I could only find one ad that featured them. Maybe the reason I think the Bubble Poppin' Boys were a big part of this episode's advertising is because I played that one Flash game on Nick.com where you had to defeat the Bubble Poppin' Boys that was made to advertise the special. In the actual special, though, the Bubble Poppin' Boys are nothing more than a cheap way to move the plot forward and give us a little bit of action to ramp up this otherwise incredibly boring and meandering special. The gang shows up, SpongeBob traps them all in a bubble, and now everyone in the town elects him mayor for it so that he can be in a newspaper and now his friends can find him. They tie together the plot, sure, but do they tie together the story? Do they represent any sort of ideology? Blowing bubbles in SpongeBob are often a representation of embracing childhood and childish things. So an entire gang based around hating bubbles should be ideologically opposed to everything SpongeBob is. But because SpongeBob just has amnesia and doesn't even know who he is, he isn't currently holding on to any part of himself that the Bubble Poppin' Boys can oppose, other than the surface level action of blowing the bubbles. I just feel in watching this episode there's so much more it could have done to make it more special-y. SpongeBob questioning who he is, the new setting of New Kelp City, the Bubble Poppin' Boys, it's all just kinda half-baked, and it could have been executed a lot better if the writers had just understood to keep the plot and the story connected. Chapter 4: Jewel-Encrusted Egg. So, in the Bikini Bottom-focused B-plot, Sandy, Patrick, and Mr. Krabs all feel bad about their part in driving SpongeBob away from Bikini Bottom. The characters just kind of change on a dime, though, rather than undergo a more substantial character arc. On one hand, it kind of makes sense. These three never hated SpongeBob, they just got mad at him once, so of course they feel bad. But this sequence of events isn't super meaningful as a story, and doesn't teach a lesson that would really resonate with the audience. It just goes through the motion. Friends mean, SpongeBob gone, friends get SpongeBob back now. It's all just a matter of getting the characters from point A to point B so that the episode can justify the time it's taking from you to view it. The one character who I am the most conflicted on how they're portrayed in the episode is Squidward. The episode portrays Squidward as someone who does not care that SpongeBob is gone and only helps find him because Mr. Krabs offers him a
handcrafted, jewel-encrusted, ornamental egg.
Okay, so this egg thing is like my favorite part of the episode. I don't know what it is, but the fact that Squid's whole motivation is some kind of weird decorative egg, it just makes me laugh so hard. Like every line where he's like, egg, it just makes me chuckle. It's kind of too bad they wasted this perfect character motivation for Squidward on such a lackluster episode. But yeah, the episode goes all in on the cynical side of Squidward and portrays him as someone with no love whatsoever for SpongeBob. This is not completely inconsistent with his character. Squidward is shown to be happy in other episodes where SpongeBob leaving is a central part of the plot, but at the same time, a central underlying part of Squidward's character is that he deep down does like SpongeBob, and that SpongeBob's presence in Squidward's life does make his life better. If you take, for example, an episode like Squidville, it's clear that when he's away from his neighbors for too long, he actually starts to miss them. However, I could chalk this up to the fact that SpongeBob just hasn't been gone for that long, and Squidward hasn't got past his initial knee-jerk reaction of being happy in the face of SpongeBob's absence. I think the episode could have kept Squidward as the cynical one in the group to contrast against Sandy, Patrick, and Mr. Krabs, but we could have benefited from maybe one moment towards the end of the episode where there was a hint of Squidward genuinely wanting SpongeBob back. When the gang finds SpongeBob after he's elected mayor, SpongeBob is reluctant to go back, but he's only reluctant because of the amnesia, which is a much weaker reason than, the highly emotional motivation set up in the beginning. The solution to this problem is for them to just kidnap SpongeBob and bring him home, and then SpongeBob gets his memory back because Squidward's fancy egg breaks on his head. Then the episode almost has a moment that engages with its central emotional premise where SpongeBob, even when regaining his memories, is about to choose to return to New Kelp City, but the episode doesn't really engage with that, and more so claims that SpongeBob's reasoning is just that he has mayoral duties, to which a news report states that all the bubble blowing in New Kelp City is causing trouble, and everyone there is mad at Mayor SpongeBob, or Mayor Cheesehead. So all of these circumstances of the universe that have nothing to do with emotional character choices all line up to put SpongeBob back in his rightful place. And that's just kind of it. So yeah, WhoBob WhatPants is truly a forgettable SpongeBob special. Did I already make that joke? I don't remember. Even if it weren't a special, it would just have been a mediocre 11-minute episode. Amnesia plots just kind of fundamentally don't work, and the structure didn't really lend itself to any sort of meaningful character arcs. There's a couple fixes that could have made it a serviceable episode, but I can confidently say that WhoBob WhatPants is the least special SpongeBob special out there. Hey, thank you so much for watching. If you're interested in seeing one of my other videos, click on this video on the right. Or if you're interested in seeing some of my live stream segments, check out this video on the left. If you like what I do and want to see me do more of it, consider joining my Patreon or becoming a channel member. See you next time.